For generations, the American dream has been defined by the pursuit of home ownership, a powerful symbol of stability, security, and a personal stake in the future. Owning a home isn't just about having a roof over your head. It's about building a life, investing in your family, and planting roots in a community you can call your own. It's within these walls that families grow, friendships blossom, and lifelong memories are made. Neighborhoods become the backdrop for childhood adventures, backyard barbecues, and holiday traditions passed down through generations. Home ownership has long been a cornerstone of economic prosperity in America. It not only helps families build generational wealth, but also supports millions of local jobs. From construction workers and realtors to landscapers and small business owners who thrive in growing communities, the health of the housing market is often seen as a reflection of the nation's overall economic strength. When homes are being built and sold, it signals confidence and growth. But when the market struggles, the effects ripple through every corner of society. Today, however, the path to home ownership is steeper and more challenging than ever before. Many aspiring buyers find themselves facing obstacles that previous generations never imagined. Soaring home prices, stagnant wages, and a persistent shortage of available homes have put the dream of ownership out of reach for countless Americans. For many, saving for a down payment feels impossible, and the search for an affordable home can be discouraging. Young families and first-time buyers in particular are caught in a market where prices rise faster than they can save. Competition is fierce, and the options are limited, leaving many to wonder if they'll ever have a place to call their own. At the heart of this crisis are the very materials that build our homes, especially lumber. The cost and availability of lumber directly impact the price of new homes, making it a critical factor in the affordability equation. For decades, affordable Canadian lumber has played a vital role in keeping construction costs manageable. For builders and buyers alike, this steady supply has helped fuel the growth of American neighborhoods and kept the dream of home ownership within reach. But now, a long-standing trade dispute threatens this essential supply chain. And trade tensions have driven up prices and created uncertainty for builders, buyers, and entire communities who depend on affordable housing. The question remains, can the American dream survive when its very foundation is at risk? As challenges mount, the future of home ownership in America hangs in the balance, and the answer will shape generations to come. Most Americans don't realize just how much their daily lives are shaped by resources from beyond their borders. In fact, a significant portion of the wood used to build American homes actually comes from Canada, crossing thousands of miles to reach construction sites across the United States. Canadian softwood, especially spruce, pine, and fir, makes up about a third of all the lumber used in U.S. home construction. These species are particularly valued for their strength, straightness, and workability, making them ideal for framing and structural support. The reality is the U.S. timber industry simply can't keep up with the enormous demand for new housing and renovations. Canadian imports are essential, filling the gap and ensuring that builders have the materials they need when they need them. This cross-border trade has enabled large-scale home-building projects to flourish, supporting the rapid growth of suburbs and cities. It's also played a crucial role in keeping lumber prices more stable and affordable for both builders and home buyers. Canadian lumber is especially prized for its strength and consistency. The country's cold climate slows tree growth, resulting in denser, straighter wood. Combined with Canada's strict forest management practices, this ensures a steady supply of high-quality lumber year after year. Builders across America rely on this dependable, high-quality supply to keep their projects on schedule and within budget. Without it, delays and cost overruns would become far more common. However, this deep integration between the U.S. and Canadian lumber industries also creates a vulnerability. When the flow of Canadian wood is disrupted, whether by tariffs, trade disputes, or transportation issues, the effects are felt almost immediately. Construction projects can slow or even grind to a halt as builders scramble to find alternative sources or pay higher prices for scarce materials. These higher costs ripple through the entire industry, ultimately raising home prices for families and making the dream of home ownership harder to achieve for many Americans. In the end, the American dream of owning a home is built quite literally on Canadian wood, a partnership that shapes the very neighborhoods we live in. To protect domestic timber jobs, the U.S. has imposed steep tariffs on Canadian softwood lumber. These tariffs are meant to counter what the U.S. calls unfair Canadian subsidies, alleging that Canadian lumber is sold below market value. Supporters say tariffs level the playing field and save American jobs. But critics argue they drive up costs for builders and home buyers, making housing less affordable. Tariffs can add over 17% to the price of Canadian lumber, a cost passed down the line. While they help some U.S. mills, they hurt millions of Americans trying to buy or build a home. The policy pits the interests of a few against the needs of many. The result? A fundamental tension between protecting jobs and keeping homes affordable. The United States and Canada are locked in a relationship of deep mutual dependence when it comes to lumber, relationship that has shaped both nations' economies for decades. Lumber isn't just a commodity. It's a lifeline that connects communities, industries, and livelihoods on both sides of the border. Every day, thousands of trucks loaded with Canadian timber cross into the U.S., fueling a supply chain that stretches from remote forests to bustling cities. America's booming housing market relies heavily on Canadian wood to build homes, schools, and businesses. Without this steady supply, construction would slow to a crawl, affecting not just builders, but also families waiting for new homes and entire communities counting on growth. Meanwhile, Canada's forestry sector depends on the vast U.S. market to sustain its operations. For many Canadian towns, lumber isn't just an industry. It's the backbone of the local economy, supporting jobs, schools, and public services. When tariffs are imposed, the impact is immediate and severe. Jobs are threatened, mills close, and entire communities on both sides of the border face uncertainty and hardship. For Canada, the U.S. is by far the biggest customer for its lumber. Entire towns depend on the ability to export wood southward, and a single policy change can ripple through every aspect of daily life. For the U.S., losing access to Canadian lumber means more than just inconvenience. It leads to shortages, delays, and soaring prices for builders and homeowners alike, making the dream of homeownership even harder to reach. Over the years, both countries have tried to manage this delicate balance through a series of trade agreements. But when these deals expire or break down, old tensions quickly resurface, reigniting disputes that affect millions. Each side faces a difficult dilemma: to protect its own industry and workers or risk harming the broader economy and straining international relations. The stakes are high, and the choices are never simple. The cycle of tariffs, negotiations, and legal battles seems endless. There's no easy solution, and every round of talks brings new challenges and uncertainties for businesses and workers. In this high-stakes game, every action by one country triggers a reaction from the other, setting off a chain of events that can be felt from the forest floor to the factory floor. The result is a fragile balance, one that's easily upset with very real consequences for families, workers, and entire communities who depend on the lumber trade for their future. The ongoing lumber dispute is more than just a trade disagreement. It's a case study in how deeply intertwined and how complicated cross-border trade can be. It's a reminder that behind every policy and negotiation are real people whose lives hang in the balance. At the heart of the dispute are two different systems. U.S. timber is mostly private. Canadian forests are public. The U.S. claims Canada's government sets stumpage fees or unfair subsidies. Canada insists its system is just different, not unjust. Canada has challenged U.S. tariffs in international courts and often won. In response, Canada has threatened countermeasures targeting other American goods to apply pressure. This tit-for-tat escalates the conflict, turning a trade disagreement into a broader diplomatic standoff. The result? Uncertainty for businesses, wasted resources on litigation, and no end in sight. The most direct impact of lumber tariffs is on the cost of building a home. Tariffs add thousands to the price of a new house, pushing many buyers out of the market. Builders face unpredictable costs and delays, sometimes halting projects altogether, small builders and families. Planning renovations are hit especially hard. Retailers struggle to keep prices stable, and contractors can't guarantee quotes. For many, the dream of homeownership slips further away. The financial strain can mean smaller homes, less desirable locations, or giving up entirely.